I've got a good friend with me here today, Venita Caldwell. I've known Venita since high school, and she's one of the funniest people I've ever known in my life. And she's going to tell us some stories later on today, but before we do that, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited. I can
Good.
hardly stand it.
I am too. But Venita has some interesting stories she's going to tell us about her mom. Would you do that?
I would. I'm always glad to talk about my mother. Mother died 6 years ago, last week actually. My mother, when she was 15 years old, first of all, let me say, my mother wanted to go to school so badly and was not allowed to go to school. She was allowed to go through the 8th grade, and she loved going to school so much that she asked her father if she could go another year to the 8th grade because he would not allow her to go to high school. So she went through the 8th grade twice just because she loved school. When she got out of the 8th grade the second time, she was 15 years old, able to go to work. And this was in the 1940s, 30s, 40s. Okay, she was born in 1927, so you can get an idea of that. She rode a mule across the hill from Coon Creek over to Wendover. And she was hired at Wendover by Mary Breckenridge to be Mary Breckenridge's personal maid. And part of her job was to help Mrs. Breckenridge every day. Mrs. Breckenridge loved to feed the chickens. And you'll see pictures of her actually feeding the chickens. That's very popular. And Mother would help her feed the chickens. When Mother had been there not very long, she had appendicitis. And Mrs. Breckenridge, when she came from the hospital, when they brought her back to Wendover, Mrs. Breckenridge moved her into the room next to her own at Wendover and nursed her back to health. And that's the beginning of my mother's work life. And she worked at Frontier Nursing Service at Wendover until she met my father, who was also working at Wendover at the time. And they married. And then when I was 6 years old and started school, she became an employee of Frontier Nursing Service again at the Hyden Hospital, the old Hyden Hospital, and she was the chief cook for the nurses and the doctors and the dignitaries who came from all over.
Wow,
so
I bet you have some stories to tell there, don't you?
I do, and do you want me to tell?
Sure.
I do, and shall I go on, Rhonda?
Yes, go ahead.
When I was growing up, people talk about Eastern Kentucky in negative terms, and they talk about how isolated we are, how cut off from the world we are, and how we don't know how to act when we go anyplace else. My mother cooked for the nurses, the midwives, and the doctors, and it was not uncommon when I was in 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, because we lived on Hospital Hill. I would come home from school and there would be ladies from England, Scotland, Britain, sitting in our living room, and my mother was always picking up strays, people or animals, and she would bring them home, and because they were so far from home and because they did not have family, Mother just sort of adopted these women, and they would come home. And so after dinner, we were sitting in the living room, and I was listening to all these stories about other parts of the world that I had not visited, but I felt like, you know, I had because they were there.
Right.
And I always say that Frontier Nursing Service and the nurses and doctors and people from FNS that I met when I was growing up, and the Bookmobile, gave the world to me. And I have traveled all over the world in books and in stories from other folks. And I think that's a wonderful thing, because I had a fantastic childhood. I did not feel deprived. I did not feel like I had missed out on anything, because I had people and books who really enriched my life. So that's my story.
That's great. That's great. So tell us what you're doing now, Venita.
What am I doing now? I'm dodging acorns on your
They're all
deck
falling
right
today.
now. Is what we're doing now.
The sky's falling.
The sky's falling. The sky's falling. Is that the Little Red Hen or Chicken Little?
Chicken
I don't
Little.
remember, but anyway, it is literally. I assume my day job.
Okay,
I
there we go.
should tell you what my day job is, because I love my day job. Love my day job. I am a professor at Hazard Community and Technical College in Hazard, Kentucky, and have been there full-time for about 21 years and longer than that as an adjunct professor and whatever. And I love my job and I love my students. And Hazard Community College, I can't do enough plugs for Hazard Community and Technical. But I have a little side show,
Okay.
circus sideshow, that's me. Go to the freak tent. But anyway, I have a little side activity that I do, stand-up comedy for folks. I am One Funny Lady Productions is what I am.
Is that it? The name of it is One Funny
I am
Lady?
One Funny Lady Productions. And I have talked to folks in basements in London, and I have talked to people.
London, Kentucky.
London, Kentucky,
Okay.
yeah. London, Kentucky. Oh, ooh, but I have a story about that. Can I tell it now, or should I not? About my London, Kentucky visit.
Let's hear it.
Okay.
Is it a good one?
It's a wonderful one. I used to, well, I mean, I think it's a wonderful one, but anyway, that gave me a chuckle. And I'm easy, so nobody else will think this is funny. We were in London, Kentucky, in the basement of what used to be the old Sue Bennett College. And I had a whopping 70 would have been great. I had a whopping 20 people, maybe, in this basement from some organization. And at the time, I was doing, for the Humanities Council, and I was doing this this program. It was called Kerosene Salad Bars.
Okay.
And it's a takeoff on things that people put on marquees that really don't go together, like kerosene and salad bars. Well, that was the title of my show. And for those people out there who do comedy of any sort, when things are going well or not with your crowd. Well, 20 people, 19 of them were laughing and having such a good time with me. One lady was not. And when I say she was not, I mean she was not having a good time with me. She was not having a good time at all. And so I start working, I mean, I'm doing everything but tap dancing on the tables. I am working to make this woman love me. And the harder I work, the less she loves me. And I'm thinking, I don't know what to do. So when everything was over and we were having a little meet and greet, and people were saying it was really nice and they were very complimentary. And the lady who asked me to come came up and she said to me, "Did you notice that you had one lady who didn't seem to really appreciate your show?" And
She wasn't engaged.
And I started, oh, she wasn't engaged. Honey. No. And I started to say, why no? I didn't know. Can you smell me sweat at this point? And she said, "I probably need to explain to you. She is from London, England. And she came tonight thinking that Kerosene Salad Bars was going to be a show about cooking and recipes, and she's a little disappointed."
She wanted that kerosene salad bar.
Yeah, she wanted a kerosene salad bar, and God bless her heart, had I known that she wanted one, I would have fixed her up one.
Thanks to Miss Venita for spending some time with us here on Our Mountains.